Welcome back to a new episode of Growing Kentucky's Leaders. We have a great guest with us today. I'm Sheldon McKinney. I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky FFA Foundation, and I have with us Isaiah Pruitt. Isaiah is a past state FFA officer. He's a student at Murray State University, and he wears a lot of hats there. I'll let him introduce himself, but Isaiah was also a winner of our Shark Tank grant several years ago. So, Isaiah, why don't you tell us who you are and kind of what you're up to?
Well, as you mentioned, my name is Isaiah Pruitt. I come from a small town in central Kentucky in LaRue County, Buffalo, about just 4 or 5 miles from the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln. So a pretty neat spot in Kentucky. It's about as dead central as you can get. I go here to Murray State University. It's where I'm at right now here in Murray. It's about a 3-hour trip from home. I love it here. I chose to go here 3 years ago. I went on a college visit here as kind of a half forced to by my father. He truck drives and came out here a lot to go to Tennessee through here a lot and encouraged me to tour Murray State. I found Murray State. I loved it so much. I went on a UK tour the next week, and I basically wanted to leave the tour halfway through because this is where I knew I wanted to be. So I came down here. I became an ag business student. Ag economics and agriculture policy is kind of my focus. Hopefully to turn that into some government relations work one day through this work. But I really enjoy my class schedule. We have a great staff here, of course, as you know. One of my mentors here, Dr. Brandon, recently retired as dean, now with Dr. Parr. But that main group of ag educators has really kept me lively here and loving Murray State as much. Yeah, I was a former state FFA officer, state reporter a couple of years ago, and then still here at Murray State, finishing up, wrapping up my senior year here, graduating in May.
Yeah. That's so exciting, Isaiah. It's been great to watch you grow and kind of on this journey. And you need to share this episode with all the folks at Murray State because you just gave them such a wonderful plug. I hope. You have a really rich history with Kentucky FFA, and you were actually a 2020 Shark Tank winner. Those are $5,000 grants that we give to students who pitch an agricultural business plan. You have you had a unique SAE project, and it's really came full circle now. So tell us about the project that you pitched in 2020 and what we funded and how it's grown over the last few years.
Yeah. So it kind of starts all the way back at my freshman year. I had a passion for advocating for agriculture. I didn't grow up on a farm at all. I grew up around farms. My family has a history in farming. I wanted a passion in FFA. I wanted to find something. So I found advocating for agriculture, specifically farmer suicide awareness, a thing of my concern. When COVID came around, doing a lot of that education and on the road kind of stopped. I wanted to find something new to do. My SAE couldn't have developed any farther because a lot of it was based off of in-person experiences, in-person relations. When the Shark Tank program came up, Ms. Bivens, my agriculture teacher, and Mr. Thomas, my other agriculture teacher, encouraged me to apply for the grant, to think of something to do different with SAE. I love talking. I love doing things with audio and video work. And I said, well, I'm going to try a podcast. I'm going to try to utilize some of the connections I made through my other SAE to see if I can interview and use that platform. So I created Beyond Ag. It was kind of a goal to where I didn't really come from a major agriculture background. I wanted to use my perspective of agriculture to benefit those within agriculture. So I created a podcast that I produced after I received the Shark Tank grant. I pitched that to the members on that committee, on that selection committee for it, saying that I wanted to be able to produce episodes, interview agriculture leaders, and those that have stakeholders in agriculture, including just everyday farmers, everyday people, and all the way up to government officials on their role in agriculture, on issues that were upcoming. The COVID-19 was a very large one that I talked about many times. CAPE funding was a big one that farmers needed, sometimes some of those safety nets for them. I used that platform that I had, and I talked about that in the panel. I was looking back actually the other day when we had talked about having this interview about some of the notes that I had made. I had called my mom and had her kind of send me some of the notes that I had made from the folder that I still have. And I looked it up on my computer, and I still had that basis. Like, I wanted to pitch this as an idea that I could bring in new people and hopefully give a new mechanism while people are still working in the fields, that they can see new things emerging that they might have not been able to. I was a bored high school student, high school junior, didn't have anything to do. I usually got all my classwork done on Mondays and Tuesdays during COVID. So those other 3 days I was bored, rolling around probably like a weirdo, watching the news and things like that, seeing what I can find, and I use that, pitch that, and then eventually I was able to receive the equipment through the money and the grant. Created the podcast, interviewed many people, including our FSA agents in Kentucky, including Brian Lacefield, who was the executive director at the time, all the way through everyday farmers, even including agriculture educators like Mr. Davis.
That's awesome. Well, we've loved cheering you on and watching that. I think people will be interested to know that it's came full circle, that we gave you this grant in 2020 and now we have hired you. You are working to help us produce and edit our new podcast that folks are listening to.
Yeah, and it's been an awesome opportunity. I was really excited when I was working in Washington D.C. this summer, and you'd send me that text while I was eating breakfast in the cafeteria. I was really excited to see that I had the opportunity to give back in another different kind of way, especially coming full circle. That was something that pointed out to me too, was that once you all started this passion, and then it's coming full around using that passion to help FFA members and FFA advisors and agriculture teachers.
Yeah. And so we love talking to people. We're not techie people really at all. I'm definitely not. Ruth Ann is more than me, but your expertise and help here, it's just been great that we get to partner together in this professional way to help tell a story. You are a person who loves agriculture, marketing, and storytelling. Why is it important to help people in agriculture tell their story well?
Well, it's not a secret. I mean, agriculture is getting older. Our farmers are getting older. The average age is rising every year, and we're losing people that are going to produce more food for the world than they've ever imagined before. I mean, if you look at it, farmers are saying they are feeding more and more and more people in the thousands every single day that they wake up. Yeah. And so I think just teaching folks about the groceries that they're buying on the shelf and where that's coming from. I know FFA has done a really good job with that. And my emphasis on that was I have a platform that I can bridge kind of that non-agriculture background to those who are heavily invested in agriculture production since they're very, very young lives and even generations before that. I think it's important to have that marketed out, moreover than just, the regular run-of-the-mill things, GMOs and things like that. But who made that? Who made the wheat that gets your bread? Who raised the cattle that you're eating steak on the table that night? I think that's really important, that everyday people that are going just to buy and consume things at the grocery store know where that's coming from and who that's coming from. And I think I've seen a lot of commodity groups pick that up as of recent, farmer highlights and things like that. And that was something that I had really become a passionate about, is just educating those on where our food comes from, how it gets there, and how safe and how well it's managed in animal health practices and also food health, crop health practices as well. How much our farmers care, how much people in agriculture care about the work that they do, whether that be all the way from commodity brokers to those who work in the field every day.
I think that now people not only have to be really good at their job, but they have to be really good at telling people about their job. And it never stops. The social media needs constant content, and to be a content creator, to share, look at what we're doing, look at the impact we had, that doesn't come naturally to a lot of farmers or people in agriculture. And so it does to some, but we do need help sharing our message for sure. And so I think
it's impactful to see how much social media plays in our world today. I mean, one tweet can definitely move markets and things like that. And that's a pretty powerful tool that agriculture can use to educate farmers and to educate everybody else in the world on what agriculture is doing in a positive way. Because it definitely, if we don't take advantage and don't take that platform for ourselves, those same powerful tweets that can benefit our farmers positively can also tear them down if we don't do something to stop it. So
you're right. That's great. So Isaiah, you were Kentucky FFA state officer, and you got to have a lot of great experiences through FFA. I got to be with you on several. Your team was a lot of fun. Tell us about how the FFA Foundation was a part of your experience and maybe some of the things you learned working with us.
Yeah, the foundation was a big part of my experience, especially as we talked about before. I heard just a couple minutes ago about that Shark Tank grant. That kind of reaffirmed my passion and my stake in FFA. I was, COVID was a hard time for everybody. I was trying to find my place once again, and I found that. Kentucky FFA Foundation gave that grant to me, which eventually became a passion that I wanted to carry through my state officer year. And so throughout my state officer year, my team and I, we went on many opportunities. We got to tell students and teach students about leadership, which was supported and got to give them opportunities like the grants that the FFA Foundation has. I remember many times that I talked to students and I was asking them about SAEs, especially when I did SAE workshops and how to develop one. And a lot of the concerns was, as it still is today, financial state of families. Sometimes it's not as easy as, I really want to start a chicken operation, but my family just doesn't have the money. Well, that's a great opportunity for you to apply for that $250 grant that our foundation has, that National FFA has, and things like that, for you to be able to find something to take that weight off and for you to continue to grow your SAE and your passion. Those fall into many different SAEs. And that was one way, especially through our industry tours we did about midways through our state officer year. That was another thing that really reinstilled passion in our team. We come off that all of our first semester of college for the first time for the most of us. And having that stress, finally getting a break, and then getting to get back together and give back to the industry that supports to us through your industry tours that you took us on. We got to see a lot of agriculture and got to learn a lot. I remember learning a lot. To this day, I remember us going to the Kentucky pork producers, and now I've interned with them for 2 in the winter and in the first half of the summer before I moved to DC. I don't think I would have been able to do that or build that connection with Nikki and them if it wasn't for the foundation and those industry tours and my experience as a state officer. So I definitely think that's a big one that points out to me is I'll turn over to myself, but also for other people on my team. I see, how Ruth Ann got involved with the foundation too. I mean, former state officer, former national officer, and wanted to give back to Kentucky FFA, coming out of being an ag teacher and then going into being a development officer.
Yeah. When we think about what is equitable in FFA and how to make it more equitable, the foundation, that's the role that we play, is that we want every student, no matter where you come from, if it's a city, a rural area, what the economic status of your family is, we want to make sure you have equal opportunity in FFA. And the foundation, through our grants and programs, we're really doing that. And it does absolutely make a difference. And for you took full advantage of every opportunity that we had. And we do take these big industry tours. If people don't know what that is, the foundation takes the state officer team. We visit like 10 or 15 partners over a couple of days in really cold January. But it was up to you to build those positive connections moving forward. We can get you through a lot of doors, but staying's on you. And you've done that. It has been great. If people are thinking about supporting Kentucky FFA and why we are a good philanthropy, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I think I would tell them, look at me and look at the 20,000 current students and current FFA members that are in Kentucky FFA, and the over almost 100,000 probably alumni that have reaped the benefits of Kentucky FFA since our founding in 1930. And it's something that really gets back to me. You see, especially through state convention and especially through my lens as a state officer, how many people bring back their old FFA jackets to show off. Even in chapter banquets, I experienced that many times, where fathers and grandfathers and mothers and grandmothers brought back their old jackets because they were so proud of their freshman or sophomore FFA student for making their first big achievement. You look back at it now, and I've been guilty of this. You've kind of neglected that first, award that you think now is little, but how big it was to you then. I think that's one thing that I would tell people, is those little awards that seem little to you now, those are big for FFA members that are really trying to find their place in FFA. I think that you can also look at what we've done and what the foundation has done for students and FFA members. I just talked about those grants. Some SAEs turn into businesses. Hopefully all of them do at some point. So, seeing those grants, your $1, your $5, your 6-figure donation to Kentucky FFA is sending kids those grants, is sending kids the opportunity to go to FFA camp, sending members to state convention, national convention, those exciting things that are some of the best memories, at least for me, from high school and even into my freshman year of college as state officer. I think just look at those and see the smiles on the faces. I feel I can be vulnerable when someone young smiles at me, and I'm probably more willing to give money in that way too, just because seeing the impact that FFA can have. It's definitely had an impact on me, and I know it's had an impact on so many of my best friends that I've created through FFA.
Sure.
and I would be able to have them if I didn't have FFA. So,
And we have all kinds of ways for people to give, whether you are a broke college student, giving $5 on Give FFA Day or signing up for a monthly gift of $5. That is very meaningful. We hope that people's support grows over time. I had lunch last week with our board chairman and another board member, JR, with a gentleman who was recently retired from a major company, and they were talking about FFA and looking back on what it had on their lives. And these gentlemen are older, they're in a reflective state, and they're going, when I look back, what it made a difference, it was FFA. And we hope that that love for FFA stays strong, but that your support of FFA grows over time. And I'm looking at you, Isaiah. I do this to all my past state officers. I have high expectations for everybody to keep giving back, because it really absolutely matters.
I definitely agree. Hopefully, I'll make one day. I'll make enough money to make pretty large donations to FFA. That's my dream.
Okay.
So,
all right, take note on this day. This is what Isaiah said. I'll send him his episode when he gets a big promotion. So we ask all our guests the same 3 questions to close, and I'm curious for your answers, Isaiah. So our first question is, what is the best leadership advice you've ever received?
So actually, I was writing this down. And I told you before the show, I had started kind of brainstorming what I would say. I don't remember who said this, but I remember especially I heard it over the summer from one of the members of Congress that I'd met while working in DC for Congressman Comer. He said, "You're only as big as the smallest person in the room." A lot of times we hear that in different ways. But I definitely took that to when you're meeting and campaigning with constituents, in terms of a congressional perspective, that smallest person in the room might be the quietest, that sits in the back of the room, that never brings up their issues or their priorities. But in FFA, that might be someone who isn't involved at all, has, struggles sometimes paying those dues to FFA. Those can be sometimes the smallest people in the room, the ones who don't speak the loudest. You're only as big as them. So bring yourself down to earth. And be with them, be on their level, understand where they're coming from just as much as the person who's right up front, raising their hand for everything. That's something that rung with me this summer, and I continue to carry home because it definitely humbled me in a way. You feel sometimes as a senior college student with so many opportunities right in front of you, you feel like you're on top of the world. And hearing that made me realize that, sometimes the only way I can give back and the only way I'm going to continue and maintain those opportunities is bringing myself down, being the smallest person in the room for the smallest person in the room. So I definitely think that's probably one of the best leadership advices I've ever heard.
That's great. That was a wonderful experience you had this summer, and good lesson for sure. Philanthropy is all about giving back. And so we like to have all of our guests give you the opportunity to shout out someone who maybe poured into you and your leadership.
I think there's been a lot of people. My mom was a state officer back in the 90s, who really created my foundation for my love for FFA. Definitely thinking now in terms of career perspective and professional perspective, Dr. Brandon, who I talked about earlier on the show, has given me a lot of advice, a lot of character building. He's held me accountable when I needed to be accountable, and he's lifted me up when I needed to. Nikki Ellis, who, of course, as I mentioned, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet without our industry tours. She has helped a lot. She has been one of my biggest cheerleaders since I've met her, and I credit a lot of where I am now, and especially my DC experience, to her and her help and what she's done for me. And then Dale Dobson, you hear me say that name a lot. He has been one of the biggest mentors. He definitely holds me accountable, and I need to be held accountable. But he has been one of my biggest cheerleaders alongside with my parents and my family. Since I started in FFA my freshman year, when he contacted me about an opportunity to teach others about grain safety, something I haven't touched in a while now, but it started our relationship. I always say he's my 60-year-old best friend. He is one of the biggest mentors in my life. I know if I call him whatever hour of the day or night, he's going to answer, and he's going to give me the best advice that he can think of. So those are definitely a lot of people that has poured into a very hopefully full cup one day.
Those are good ones for sure. And I'm sure you've poured into a lot of people as well. Make sure you share this episode with all those people you mentioned. I know that it will really fill their cup. And our last question, what is something that you are loving right now that's helping you grow?
That was one thing I couldn't exactly pinpoint. I'm loving Google Calendar. I am loving Canvas because it keeps me in line with all of my classwork. But definitely, I'm loving just the moment. That was one thing that I just can't get off. I'm loving the moment I am in life. I don't think I could ask for better. I'm a first generation, will be a first generation college graduate. That is something that's really exciting me as it comes in May. I submitted my graduation application just the other day, and that was something that I realized as I was preparing for this episode. That's what I'm loving right now, the moment. I'm here. I've met some of my best friends in college, ones that I'll carry on, some of the guys that'll be in my wedding. Hopefully one day, and that's what I'm loving. I'm loving the fact that I'm here, that I wouldn't replace this opportunity in this moment for the world. And I'm really excited to see where that takes me over here in the next 8 months, hopefully in the next 40 years, 60 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't want to talk too farther after that, but
Yeah. Well, I think that's wonderful. You are in a really special time and it will fly by and just take every opportunity. But I don't have to tell you that because you are a person who does take opportunities and really does seize the moment and takes it, just takes something and really can make it grow. And so, Isaiah, I'm so glad that we got to introduce you to some Kentucky FFA members who we hadn't seen you in a little while. We are grateful for your work on our new podcast project. And I'm just thankful that you were here today.
thank you for having me. I've really appreciated the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to some of the feedback that listeners will get from this.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's it, folks. Thank you all for joining us for another episode of Growing Kentucky's Leaders. Growing Kentucky's Leaders is a podcast from the Kentucky FFA Foundation. The music has been performed by Bourbon County FFA member Joe Fritch. Production is provided by Isaiah Pruitt. Our artwork is by Julie Fritch Creative. Your hosts are Sheldon McKinney and Ruth Ann Fink, and you can find us on all social platforms at Kentucky FFA.